What is this thing I found in one of the boxes of my dad's old belongings? It's a wooden thing that is stored like this, but screws together. There's a hole that goes through the whole object, and it has an end like a trumpet. My family used to run a pharmacy, and this may be from anywhere between the 1920s to 1960s. It has MAW written on what I assume is the base. We have found a lot of old devices for inhaling medication, so I'm wondering if maybe it's also for that purpose. But it doesn't look like any of the others. I'd be really interested to know what this is. It's a monaural stethoscope. In 1816, a French physician named René Laennec invented a non-invasive tool for looking into the chest. His first monaural stethoscope was a 3 cm wide and 30 cm long wooden cylinder. This was replaced about 20 years later by a trumpet-shaped model with a removable earpiece, invented by Charles J.B. Williams, an English doctor and student of Laennec. This specific stethoscope was invented by Lloyd Roberts circa 1879. What are these small metal objects with a point on one end? I found a small tin of these in a desk at our office, and no one can figure out what they are. They are metal, possibly brass with a point on one end. All of them are the same size, which is roughly a ½ inch in length. Any ideas? They are gramophone needles. Gramophone was invented in 1887 by German-American inventor Emil Berliner, and both portable and cabinet and 78 RPM records were in use through the Second World War until the 1950s. Lots of people always ignore this, but these needles are supposed to be single-use items. A 78 RPM record itself is actually very hard and brittle, made of slate dust bound together with shellac. And the idea is that the steel needle is actually softer than the stone powder, so that the needle wears away instead of the record. I found this in the kitchen of an East Coast US home. The house was built in 1959. It sits flush against the bottom of the cabinet when stowed and pulls down to position. I've been living and cooking in this house for the last 2 years and didn't notice this thing. My wife says a recipe holder, but I think the ridges would prevent a paper or book from sitting flat without falling. What is this thing for? This is 100% a spice rack. Spices used to come in square tins, and this fell out of fashion in the late 80s, as this was unusable in a cluttered kitchen, and spices started to come in round containers. It is not designed for the weight of holding cookbooks. I'm old and I have one in my 1980s kitchen. What is this small metal object that seems to be a part of something larger? It has 2 small holes and a small spring or wire. I bought it with a group of items that were found by metal detectors in Europe. It's very old and made of a metal, likely bronze but not heavy like lead. I thought it might be part of a trigger mechanism for a gun or maybe a clock piece, due to the small spring wrapped around it. Any ideas? It's a fibula, an ancient brooch. It has been widely used from the entire ancient and early medieval world. These were used to fasten clothing or in some cases purely for decoration. They followed the straight pin in evolution and were eventually replaced by buttons. They are perhaps most famous as the fastener on Roman military cloaks, the sagum and paludamentum. However, they were used centuries before Rome was founded and for centuries after it fell. What is this small silver object I found in a living room with tongs and a little opening? It's silver-colored metal and the tongs open and close. The top hatch opens and closes and there's something inside. What the heck is this thing? It's a 19th to early 20th century hair curler. In 1872, a French hairdresser named Marcel Gratteau created a curling iron which was made up of tweezers in the shape of tubes. The first one was concave and the other one was convex. These tubes were heated to curl the hair, and the stand is basically an oil lamp to heat it. This is how Joe burns Meg's hair in Little Women. What is this cap from? It looks old and has embossed text that reads either HM101 or possibly 101WH. The bottom does look like it was probably threaded at some point, like a fill cap would be. I found this in a creek in Nevada just outside Death Valley. I like vintage bottle caps, and this one appeared to be pretty old. A Google search did not turn up anything with the text embossed on the cap. I'd like to know what sort of drink or product it came from, and roughly how old it is if possible. Thanks. It's the fill cap of a kerosene lantern, manufactured in Guangzhou, China in the 1950s. Given that it is a Chinese-made kerosene lantern, I have no idea what HM could mean as I have absolutely no understanding of the language. My best guess is it is referencing the Chinese brand in an easy-to-understand and English manner, or probably a manufacturer part number. What is this foot-long metal cylinder found outside with no known origin? Opening on one end looks like it fits into another object. It was found this morning on my parents' patio in eastern Canada. They have no idea where it came from, but it hit the patio with some force, as it cut a clean hole in a gas container sitting on the patio. I tried to image search on Google, but could not find a similar object. Does anyone have any idea where it could have come from? It's a small hand-launched pair of flares that we used in the military. The magnesium flare and chute is still packed, so it's still live. It was launched at close range, obviously purposely at the gas can. They're not readily available and they're not cheap if you can get your hands on them. Items like this have been known to be brought home from the field by soldiers illegally. It happens, so maybe a direction to look. Call the cops ASAP. The flare is now a UXO and someone doesn't like you. This was done on purpose. What is this arch-shaped wooden frame with metal bars, grate and doors with no writing? The wooden frame size is 4.5 feet by 3 feet, and I have no idea of the age. However, it appeared to be wooden nails on the door panels, but newer-looking hinges. I found it by a dumpster 5 to 6 years ago in a commercial complex with a woodworking shop here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's really heavy. I'm guessing 80 to 100 pounds or more. I think it was more like from the demo of an old building here in the Phoenix area. Any ideas? It's a Spanish colonial early 19th century Juliet church window, made of teak with an original finish. Here's the closest that I can get. The owner is also from Arizona and originally came from Portugal. It was purchased from an antique dealer in the 80s. I saw this on the campus of Greenwich College in London. Does anybody know what it is? I thought maybe it was something about ships because there is an old naval college there. You can see inside, but there is nothing. I am not sure what bells are made of. It could be iron perhaps. I'm guessing it was used in wars before radar to detect enemy aircraft. I'm very curious to learn what this thing is. Any ideas? It's actually a musical instrument called the Harmonic Cannon. It was made by sculptor and musician Marcus Vergette, who proposed that he create a large bell that was mobile and create a piece of music for it. Using finite element analysis, the idea developed into a pair of bells tuned a semitone apart to encourage the sonic interference or beating effect of two closely tuned pitches. 3 years later the bell appeared and has been resident in the courtyard of Trinity Laban at the old Royal Naval College in Greenwich. What is this Pyrex Globe for? It was found by a relative this morning in an old basement. I searched what is written on it, but it doesn't tell more than Pyrex holds a patent. It looks like the remains of a ceramic cap around the narrow opening. I'm thinking it's an antique fire extinguisher. Any ideas? Please tell us in the comments. Thanks for watching. Let's make life fun.